Whilst one of our objectives is to display the validity and relevance of African concepts in modern times, we're not always going to be focusing on the past alone, but integrating some older ideas with new ones. I recently came across this quote: there's freedom in authenticity, and I found that so powerful, and how amazing it was that it actually encompasses the principle of Kuntu, and that is the means and modality of navigating your way in the world as Ubuntu. So, how do you deal with different aspects of yourself and different aspects of life happening around you, as well as relationships with different people? And for you to also be able to identify where their own soul and spirit is at. Because if they're being authentic to themselves, you cannot fault them. But you can find a way to be authentic to yourself in a way that is safe for you. Um, One of my favorite experts, I would call her, on all things beautifully African and Black pride is Dr. Reba Honey. She wrote an amazing book called Yurugu, and she does lots of interesting talks that are online. You should check her out. One thing she said was, we need to rethink how we think about thinking. And I think this slide in particular is going to be available in most of the the talks and conversations that we're having, because it's a constant reminder that even the lens from which we view the world should be questioned, because there are some things in Western cultures that are just a given, but when you come to African indigenous knowledge systems, you realize that it was actually considered differently, or not even seen at all, or experienced. Um, One that I found quite interesting in the Dagara tribe of Burkina Faso was secrecy about issues, where when a husband and a wife are fighting, the whole village needs to know what that was about, because whatever is going wrong there could be a symptom of something bigger within the whole village. So if there is an illness, it, that's what they would refer to it as, an illness within the village, the whole village needs to be part of fixing it and making sure that it doesn't spread to other families. It's a very different point of view from how we do things in this day and age. And another one that I'm always seeing exposed to is the idea of hierarchy. Western culture is obsessed with hierarchy. The idea that this has to be better than that, or I have to be higher than you. So when you meet people, they want to know what job you do, how much money you make, what car you drive, which area you live in, so that they can see where you sit in the hierarchy. But African culture was very different. And we won't generalize African culture, although Africa, as if Africa was a village. Um, but we'll take its specific examples. So I would, for instance, use the example of Zulu culture, where a Zulu household, at the center is the kraal, and then all the houses are around it. I used an example recently of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And the reason why they did that was to foster equality and everyone to be able to see each other and be heard. Um, so that principle, you see it being displayed in the way Africans foresaw things. And as we're going through Ubuntu, you'll see the importance even of that, because when you elevate people to their greatest potential, the whole the whole collective benefits. The village gets to get the best part of that person. And imagine a village filled with people all living out their true potential. How powerful would that village be? How much love, generosity, kindness, and all these virtues would there be in such a village? So now I'm going to take you through the philosophy of Kuntu. And as I mentioned, it's the way or modality that one navigates around um, the world as a spirit. So you navigate space and time, which is Hantu. You innovate your own inner world, which is your own Ubuntu, and then the outer world, which is Kintu, and that's the world of things. And then Ntu is the God spirit. Um, Celestial tribe is the Bantu that your tribe basically, and you are the Muntu. This concept came to me a couple of years ago, and it's actually just grown over time, and it's constantly evolving in the most godly, I would say, of ways. And I'm always blessed when I get new concepts and ideas to add to it that are enriching it and making it evolve as time goes. Um, so it basically started as the idea that there's different levels at which our soul operates. And this is a ladder format, but we don't necessarily consider it a hierarchy because you can move from one of these spaces to the other, from top to bottom, bottom to top. I'll start with the level of fighting, and that's the red badge. That's where the spirit is embracing its wildness, and that could be bravery, violence, sexuality, all of those, but in a very fiery and energetic manner where the energy is contained. And what we often say is that people who struggle at this level are actually struggling with their inner world. But as we talk about Kuntu being about how you relate or navigate yourself as the Muntu in all of these spaces, you might be someone who's not there and you recognize that you are engaging or interacting with someone who is at a fighting stage. And we've all seen those people. Someone who gets enraged by traffic, who walks through the door and complains about the air conditioning. Every big or little thing is an issue. And you can see that this person is not fighting whatever's going on here, it's going on inside them. And in that phase, the best way to relate to that person is to engage with them from a flow or a fly phase. And flow was originally called the we dance phase. And that's where you master the art of persuasion and you dance with the situation and you dance with yourself. This is where a lot of healing happens for people because a lot of things seem much larger than life if we fight them. And the more we fight them, the more energy we give them and they grow. But when you're in the flow phase, you're seeing where you are, in essence, in relation to the situation and where you want to be. Or if it's in a conversation with another person, you're able to throw a punch and laugh, and they may be dark. So I use the example of the dance form called capoeira, which is actually martial arts, but it's all dancing. And it's so elegant and it's still very aerobic and athletic, but it's not violent. And the energies are more balanced and flowing. And then we get to a level higher than that one, which is the fly stage. And here, this is where you learn self mastery and how to master your outer world. Um, some would refer to this phase as the phase of alchemy. That's where you've reached a level where, in issues or arguments, you're not at that base level of fighting and you're not even dancing, but you move with such stealth precision. That's where manifestations comes in and you're flowing through your own life as though by magic. And it's not magic, as we all know, but it's how our spirit relates to the world around it. And this phase is also the phase of creativity, so lots of feminine birthing energy. And then above that is the level of family, and originally I called this "We Are Stars." And when at this level, we are reunited with our celestial tribes, and that's where we know we are reminded of our life purpose, and we meet people to co-create our vision with. And that's where you're attracting your tribe. So, what I was saying about this phase is, if you imagine a celestial family, we all came from somewhere in the universe and we arrived here on earth different times. But when you meet someone from your family, they can remind you of the values that your family held, or the ways of being for your family and your tribe. And you can learn and teach each other, and at some stage become energy co creators together. We'll talk more about the various levels. And then you see the words surrender at the bottom as well as at the level between fly and family. At between the flying level, there's a lot of mastery taking place. But mastery is often an illusion of having arrived. And the surrender phase is that last big test, that epic fight in the film where it seems like all is lost. They've given it their all, they've trained as much as they can, and it might just not be. And at that point, that is a point not of fighting, it's a point of surrender. Because that's when your greatness meets you halfway and takes you into that next level. But you don't fight your way into it, you rise into that level of family and you surrender. So, first you surrender and then you rise. The second one is below the fighting phase. There's a surrender phase. It's referred to as dark places. And a term that I found articulates it well is, it's the dark night of the soul. And that is when all your energy is depleted. You can't fight, you can't fly, you can't do anything. You feel like, you know what, this is it for me. And often it is. That's the point of death. But death is also beautifully transformative. And that could be the point where something new happens. And you are also renewed. But at the surrender phase, all that's left is the God particle. And how we often describe it is, I'm laughing because I'm saying we often, and I'm the only person who's actually been exposed to this up until now. How I often describe it is, at that dark night of the soul, that there's only two things remaining: pain and the truth. And from there, that's where there's lots of lessons, and that's where you are reintroduced to your own God and celestial family values, which we'll go deeper into later. And then lastly, it's the celestial tribe. Um, the celestial tribe is the family that you came from before you arrived here. And the tribe emblem is the virtue that your family brings into the world. So we'll show a few virtues later on and describe how they all fit into this village of um, virtues that are encouraged by the spirit of Ubuntu. One other concept that is on here is the idea of different types of Ntu spirits. So that means God is ultimate. So there is the ever knowing, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent idea of God that most people believe in. But there are also gods of the time. And you find that you could say the 20th century, at some point, the two world wars, it was a very violent time in the world. If you think of Hiroshima, all the other deaths in the different wars, um, the Holocaust, all of that. So you can see that fight energy was dominant at that time. Um, and then we can say for a couple of centuries now, but more so in the last 2 centuries, the god of money has also been very dominant. Now, whilst it's not one of these here, it is a prevalent god of the time. Um, and what the effect that these gods of the time have is that they affect the overall energy. So you come from a peaceful celestial tribe and you find yourself in a time where it's a time of violence, the idea of your celestial tribe imprint is that it always reminds you how to exist towards your greater self and not be absorbed by the gods of the time. Um, I'll leave that here for now. This page is very, very loaded, and I could teach a whole lecture just on this. Um, no, stars don't do it's complex. This is what we'll talk about when it comes to your tribal emblems. So your celestial tribe emblem is your virtue, and that's how we talk about umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. So when you are reunited with your celestial tribe, the power you have to bring that virtue to the world is multiplied. And this is a good quote that just sums it up. Ubuntu is about continuously creating, maintaining, restoring harmonious coexistence with self and the world around you whilst pursuing your highest self. And that self takes you back to the celestial tribe. And just to have a look at some of dominant virtues, this list is not exhaustive. There could definitely be other virtues added on. Things like excellence, diplomacy, fairness, creativity, bravery, loyalty, all of them link back to how we navigate our way in this world as Muntu, part of Bantu, and living in a Buntu and Kintu world. A quick recap: in the red phase, we fight, that's where energy is created. In we flow, energy is shifted. When we fly, energy is expressed. When we fashion, that's that um, part where you wrestle with God just before you make it. That scene in the movie where the hero's giving it his all and he's just about to get it. That's that surrender place. And then when we reach our family, our celestial tribe, we fit. And that's where our energy source is. But we also spoke about at the bottom where we fall. This is the dark night of the soul where we also surrender to two things that remain, the pain and the truth.